Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is the Pretty Woman, and it is the featured cocktail in today's episode. I'm going to start with our shaker with ice. To that, we're going to add bourbon. The recipe calls for Maker's Mark. I'm out of Maker's Mark. I do have 4 roses, single barrel though, so we'll use that. 2 ounces. Next, pomegranate juice, 1 ounce. Lemon juice from the plastic bottle, 1/2 ounce. Then we shake. Take our glass with ice. Not what the instructions say, but that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to strain the ingredients in there. Kind of pink. Next, we're going to top with ginger beer. There you go, boys and girls. The Pretty Woman. Yeah, not bad. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
Dads do love their daughters. What could possibly be horrific about that? Well, in this week's episode of the Scary Spirits podcast, Eyes Without a Face, we see a father's love for his daughter transformed by guilt so heavy that diabolical plans ensue. Now, I like to think that my dad would do almost anything for me. But let's be honest here. There should be limits. Especially when it comes to facial transformations. I mean, who would want to replace this delightful face anyway? Cheers.
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Greg.
Hi, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm feeling fancy.
Are you now?
Yes.
You don't have any fancy dress on or anything.
Well, way to ruin it, Greg.
Oh, sorry. Ooh, I like the frills. Are you wearing a petticoat? Or
Is that
Oh,
what they
just let
call
it go. How are you, Greg?
I'm good, thank you. Karen, why do you feel fancy?
Well, Greg, I am bringing culture to the Scary Spirits podcast. We just watched a foreign film with subtitles.
Yeah, Karen, lots of words to read, which I will probably say a lot during this podcast.
I didn't mind it, and it's cultural. We watched a French horror film.
What film have you chosen for us, Karen? Don't keep us all in suspense.
You're welcome. I chose the 1960 film Eyes Without a Face, or if you're American, 1962. It came out in France in 1960, and in America, it came out in 1962.
Do you remember either of 1960 or 1962, Karen?
No, I do not.
Me either. Any reason you chose this other than to class up the place?
Not really. It's just been something that, again, was on my radar for a while. I've heard about it, never seen it.
Dr. Craig, I believe, talked about it.
He did. And it's been on my list ever since.
And after watching it, I was thinking, damn it, we should have got Dr. Craig on this episode. But whatever.
We have to go it alone.
Yeah. You could probably bring a lot to it, though, I'll bet.
I'm sure I missed a lot.
Do we have a cocktail to go with it as well from 1960 or 1962?
I don't think the cocktail's from then, but we do have a cocktail. It's called the Pretty Woman.
And how would one make that concoction, Karen?
You're going to need 2 ounces of bourbon, 1 ounce of pomegranate juice, a half an ounce of lemon juice, and some ginger beer. You're going to mix all the ingredients in a shaker with ice, except the ginger beer. Pour it into your glass and top off with ginger beer and enjoy.
Well, Karen, I believe the recipe actually called for Maker's Mark bourbon.
It
did it or did it not?
It did, but I didn't have that, so I just said bourbon.
I didn't either, but what did you use? And did you use a top shelf bourbon or did you use?
Craig, come on. That is a silly question.
Oh, well, no. Does that mean yes? Of course
yes,
you did.
Of course I used a top shelf bourbon.
Okay, I did too. I used Four Roses single barrel bourbon.
Ooh, nice.
I don't know the difference. I'm not a bourbon guy, boys and girls.
Like the Woodford Reserve. Just a little sweeter, I think.
Is that what you used?
Yeah.
Okay. It was either I was torn between that, the Buffalo, or the Four Roses, or Buffalo Trace, which I have too.
I heard that one's good. I've never had it.
I've heard they're both good. I have them both, so people would probably be appalled that I'm mixing Four Roses single barrel into a mixed drink.
I know that happens to me a lot when I'm putting Basil Hayden's in Coke and people are like, what are you doing?
Right.
But I like it. And I can tell the difference between a good one and a bad one, but I cannot drink it straight.
We'll talk about it later, Karen, but I can drink it straight, but don't though, usually. Should we give our friends and listeners time to make their own Pretty Woman cocktail, Karen?
Yes, we should.
Hold on. And we're back. Do you have a synopsis for us, Karen?
I do.
Go on. Tell us all a story from Paris, France, 1960.
Well, I apologize in advance to all our French speakers.
Are you going to? Okay.
Well, I'm not going to read the synopsis in French.
No, but you're going to try to read their names, right?
Yes.
Okay. I just Americanized them. So go on.
Dr. Genesee is riddled with guilt after an accident that he caused disfigures the face of his daughter, the once beautiful Christiane, who outsiders believe is dead. Dr. Genesee, along with accomplice and laboratory assistant Louise, kidnaps young women and brings them to the Genesee mansion. After rendering his victims unconscious, Dr. Genesee removes their faces and attempts to graft them onto Christiane's.
That was fantastic, Karen.
They had to put Genesee in there so many times.
I called him the doctor.
I called him the professor or the doctor.
Yeah, they do refer to him as professor in the very
So I
beginning.
called him, mostly I called him professor because there are other doctors in there. I never even, to be honest, knew because I printed this out after I watched the movie that the assistant's name was Louise. I
I
just
knew that.
called it his assistant,
And I called Christiane. How would you say her name?
Christiane.
Oh, Christiane. I just call her Christine. So that's what
We
I'll be
wonder why the
saying.
French don't like us.
They gave us a Statue of Liberty. They
True.
like us. I don't think they like anybody, but moving on.
Now that we've lost every French listener.
All right, Karen, tell us everything, if anything, you really enjoyed or liked in this film. Did you like anything in it at all? Or
I
did you think
liked
it
it.
sucked?
I thought it was good. It's beautiful. I think the story is interesting. There's a lot of it's little subplots of ego and loyalty, scientific advancement. So there's a lot of things going on at the same time. I liked the story. I liked the small cast. It was easy to keep track of. The sets were pretty amazing. His mansion is awesome. Although the laboratory underneath the garage was quite impressive with the secret door, things like that. It's one of those things where you can't tell it's there from the outside. That was kind of cool. I liked that they did surgery. This was 1960. So I'm sure all of this was quite shocking, even to think to do these kind of things. But there was blood. How many of these movies have we seen from this era where they're in surgery and there's no blood?
Karen, I read that people fainted actually when this was released.
There's the special effects are pretty
I mean,
good.
obviously 1960, so it's in black and white.
Yes. But you can tell they
I don't even know if
actually
that should be obvious, but it is.
they made it bloody and her face, her burned and rat-eaten face, according to the policeman, that looked pretty good. I didn't
Didn't
think that
see.
we saw a reflection once.
Well, we
Or
saw
no, when
we
somebody
saw
opened
her.
her. Yeah.
We saw her, but it was kind of they had the blur background going on with your Zoom calls, Karen. It was kind of blurry, but we got the idea.
Yeah, but because
Kind of looked like Eddie.
for all you Iron Maiden fans. But yeah, so I mean, but it was pretty good. I thought. Even the mask that she wore, I thought she looked like Snow White almost with the mask. It was pale, but you would have noticed her out in public, certainly, but it wasn't so terrible that she could have gotten away with it a little bit.
Well, she definitely could have gotten away with it today. Maybe not 1960, but today she could.
Oh, because people look plastic, you mean?
No, because people wear masks sometimes. They're just no.
Well, not like that.
Well, but
Anyway,
still.
I liked it. I thought it was certainly different than anything we've done, and I liked that too.
Well, duh.
Like I said, classing up the joint.
Lots of words to read, Karen, if I haven't said that already.
We're not getting to the things we didn't like yet. Was there anything you liked, Greg?
All right, I have several things written down on the plus side. I wrote nice sets. It is beautiful, from the cemetery to the mansion to the lab to the city. Everything was good. It was good acting. I thought all the actors were very good.
They were good, yeah.
I thought the makeup was good, and also the special effects were good. Like you were talking about the operation and the blood, and I do have something to say about that and things I didn't like too, but overall it was very good, especially when they're actually peeling the face.
You can tell
the skin from the face.
Yes,
it was very well done. I'm pretty sure I know how they did it, but
but they had to. They made it somewhat realistic.
Oh, like it looked very good.
They didn't
especially I think for 1960.
They didn't just peel it off. You could see him working it off.
Like he was cutting it off.
Like he was really pushing under. Yeah.
Yep.
It wasn't just, outline it and pull it off. It wasn't like that at all.
Nope, not at all. Well, here's something I liked. Even though it's a foreign film with subtitles, I didn't feel like there wasn't as much dialogue as are in today's films. Maybe I don't know if that's a thing or what, you know?
Well,
It was
that and
easy to read. It was easy to follow,
it-
even though it
we
was.
don't know if what they were saying was really what was on the subtitle for
We
one,
don't.
but they left some things like entree when someone knocked at the door. They didn't
Yes.
put a subtitle. They
Yeah,
figured
yeah.
you can figure that out.
Right.
So there were some things where they didn't overload you with dialogue. That's true.
But
It
then
was
I do
very
have,
easy to read.
but then I do have something that I didn't like that might coincide with that. So we'll see. Anything else you really enjoyed in it?
I just thought it was beautiful. Maybe it's because it was France and, all the people were pretty, and I don't know.
You're
It's a
saying all
very
French
pretty film.
people were pretty?
Well, in this film, a lot of the people were pretty.
They are. A lot of the, well, he's looking for a certain type of girl, and they're all
Yes,
very
but
pretty.
I don't know what it was about it, if it was the simplicity of it, or I don't know. There was something, even though it's black and white, there was something visually striking about it. And I can't quite put my finger on what it was. It almost seemed like, when you went from bad digital to good digital, it just felt like there was something crisp, or I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's just a pretty film.
Yeah, I do remember mentioning, I didn't write it down, but in my show notes or in my notes when we're going through the film, I did make a note of there were some good shots.
Yeah, there are some
So
good
there's some
shots
good
too.
cinematography in this as well.
It wasn't made as a quick horror film. There's drama, a story, care was put into it. I guess, I don't know. I can't quite say what I'm trying to say, but I enjoyed it. I only looked at the time in the last 5 minutes because I thought something's got to happen to him, and there's only 5 minutes left.
Yeah. Well, I looked at it the first time. I looked at it partly because of what I was doing at the time, but it was half over. I'm like, all right, well, that wasn't terrible. And then I did look at it when there was like 15 or 20 minutes left, and I'm like, there's still a lot that's got to happen here.
Yes.
So, and I might have something to say about that here in a minute. Anything else?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right. Anything you didn't like or were disappointed in? Anything here?
Well, we were just kind of talking about it. The ending is very abrupt and ambiguous. I don't know exactly she just walks off into the woods.
Spoilers.
What's she going to do? Is she didn't want to live anymore. I thought she maybe was going to kill herself or something, but I don't know. And then you can't just let dogs out to the woods. They can't fend for themselves. Come on. That's something else.
Can't they?
No. I think what I
don't think you give dogs enough credit. I think they'll be fine.
No, I've seen enough rescues.
Especially those dogs.
Maybe no.
They will be fine.
I was joking. I don't want to get stuck on it.
All right, go on.
I think that's true, but I'm not going to debate it with you because it's not important. There's the major storyline is that, as it says in the synopsis, it was a car crash that he caused, but we don't get we don't really know what happened. How did he cause it? What happened? Like, what was he doing?
She talks about it for a minute or two.
Just that he has to have control, but
he drives like he owns the road is basically what she says.
But I was thinking
everyone needs to get out of his way.
That we would see a reenactment or a memory or something that would tell us what really happened. And then with the assistant, Louise, she's exceedingly loyal to him. And he did something to give her face new life, but I don't know what it was. And I would like to know why. I mean, she is completely loyal to him, doing all these things for him, and we don't really know why. And I would like to know why. Beyond that, I don't really have anything. I guess I think there was room for more. They do take the time, and I should have put this under things I liked. He seems like a compassionate doctor. They show him with other patients, and he seems like a good guy. He's just obsessed with completing this other task. In under things I don't like is I think he might be doing it more for his ego than for his daughter. But I don't know. It's a hard call on that one. Because he spends a lot of time saying, what, you doubt me? I can do, there's a lot of conversation about that. And a lot of times we say films could have been shorter. I think this one could have been a little longer and put a little more of those stories in, like why Louise, give us 5 minutes about why she's so incredibly loyal. Give us a 5-minute flashback to tell us why or how the accident happened. But other than that, no. What do you have written down for what you didn't like?
All right, Karen, things I wrote down here. Number one, lots of words to read.
Well, it has subtitles, so yes, I can't argue with that.
I thought the soundtrack, the music was kind of hokey, but that may have been because it was 1960 France. I don't know, right? But
it was like circus music.
It doesn't play well today.
No.
I think it could be shorter, actually, even though you think it could be longer. I think there's lots of walking around through the house, not doing anything that could have been cut out, which they could have used that time to do what you talked about, give more backstory on Louise or whoever and the car crash, whatever. And it's suspenseful, I guess. It's what they're trying to do, or try to show that, yeah, he's got a big palatial estate. But there's lots of walking around with nothing going on, really. I mean, it's silent. No music, no nothing. Spoilers, boys and girls. I thought Louise's death was bad at the end.
Yeah, it was. They didn't, I agreed.
Like you said, when you were talking about the ending, you were talking about the very ending, but I'm talking about the last 15 minutes or so. Felt kind of rushed, is really what I'm saying. And I mean, they did very well with the special effects when he's doing the operation and all that shit, but there is no blood when Louise is stabbed in the neck with a scalpel, Karen.
Yes, there was
nothing.
None.
There should be some arterial spray, I think, coming out.
Well, or just something on her.
That would have been much
helpful.
better if, it came onto her masked face, and
I agree.
That would have been awesome. And the ending with the doctor. I mean, special effects were generally good, except for the ending, because, it felt rushed. It felt like they used all their money for special effects before they got to the end. So the doctor, his
you can tell it's not him, yeah. And he's greatly padded.
Oh my God, yeah, he's like got a quilt wrapped around him or something underneath his clothes.
It's like spoiler alert, but it's like when you watch the police dogs being trained. That's exactly what it is.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And I don't really necessarily, I know she released the dogs, but it was I thought she would do something, not, she kills Louise and then she just lets the dogs do the rest of the work. And he didn't even look that bad at the end. I thought they should have torn his whole face off just for an eye kind of thing. And he's got some blood on his face, but.
And I do have questions about Louise as well. I have a hypothesis about who she is, but I don't know if that's true or not, because they don't really explain it.
No, but she will do anything for him. This is his assistant, without any question.
Is it? That's my question.
You think it's his lover? But even still,
in the cemetery scene, we learned that his wife died.
Yes.
4 years ago, and now his daughter died. So I'm not sure it's his assistant, really.
Oh.
I mean, they live in the same house.
With the new face.
They obviously have a relationship.
Yeah, that's good. I never thought of that. That's why she would do it for her daughter.
Absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense. I wonder if that's true.
I think it is true, Karen, but what the hell do I know? Maybe we should ask Dr. Craig.
Yeah, I completely missed. I couldn't.
No, I didn't.
That makes a lot of sense, because I just could not grasp where her loyalty was coming from, like why she was doing these crazy things.
And she was very motherly to Christiane or whatever you call her.
Yes, she was, but the daughter didn't seem like she wasn't as affectionate back.
No, I don't think she knows.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's big. That's deep conspiracy. But
yeah, because she keeps doubting her father, but obviously, since he gave Louise a new face, and she looks pretty good, Karen.
But they did keep saying it was, but Christiane says it wasn't your whole face.
Oh,
So she did know her before in her other face.
I didn't see that though.
Because she says, look what
Maybe
he did
because there
for
was
my
words
face.
to read.
Probably. And
Wasn't paying
Christiane
attention
says,
at one point or another.
but it wasn't your whole face. So
Okay.
maybe, I don't know. It's a good theory, but I'm not sure how it would play out.
All right.
I like it though. It would have been a better story.
Yeah, I
with
think so
that.
too.
Yeah, that explains a lot and would have been really good. And more of a horror, like even more.
All right, Karen, anything else you're disappointed in?
No,
Anything else we need to cover?
I just wanted more.
And I do have something written down here. I wrote, and I wrote it to the side because I didn't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, what I liked or what I didn't like. I just made a note that it feels very artsy.
I think that's might be what I was trying to say about it.
But I don't know if it feels artsy because it's a foreign film or it actually is artsy. You know what I mean?
It did, but didn't it remind you a little bit of Carnival of Souls, just the way it was filmed and stuff? So I think maybe that's what I was trying to say. There's something beautiful about it, just film wise, without even the subject matter.
Yeah, I agree.
Even with her mask on and just her eyes, you can see she's a beautiful girl.
Yes.
She's a very pretty woman, like our drink.
That's all are the young girls in this film. All the young blue-eyed students.
Yeah, you'd think they'd notice the students starting to go missing, but
I don't know why blue eyes matters, but whatever.
It's the epitome of beauty, Greg.
Is it really, Karen? Really?
That's what they tell me.
I think brown eyes are better.
Or do you?
Yes, I do. And hazel. Hazel too, I think. I think my gift has hazel. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Would you like to hear a review from or not from the time, but a review, Karen?
Yes, let's run to Critic's Corner. What do they got?
Well, first, I need to tell you that this film has a 97% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, a 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb. Any guess to what Google users think?
Is that our highest?
97? Yeah, I think that might be.
On Rotten Tomatoes. They're harsh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I think 95 was the previous before this.
97. And 7.6?
7.6.
86% of
89, Karen. You've almost got the formula down, but not quite yet.
I'm getting it. I'm close.
I think there is a formula there. We could figure it out. Or I could.
Yeah. You would spend time doing it.
I would.
I'm just guessing in the middle. But on the higher end, but in the middle.
So the review I have is from Roger Ebert, Karen. The Roger Ebert.
Excellent.
From October 31st of 2003. It's Halloween, boys and girls. In case
Was
you
it
were
released
wondering.
on DVD or something?
It might have been. I don't know. That's a good guess, though, Karen. It's a good assumption. Maybe a Blu-ray came out in 2003 of it.
It's just an odd date.
Nope. Can't find anything for 2003. All right. So it begins with a quote from the film. I've done so much wrong to perform this miracle, and I am paraphrasing. And I'm not going to try to pronounce their names. I'm just going to say, the doctor has good reason for remorse. He is a Parisian plastic surgeon, respected in the profession, a lecturer on the subject of heterografting, which involves transferring living tissue from one person to another. The downside to this procedure is that it requires both persons to be alive. Having destroyed the face of his daughter in a reckless car accident, he now wants to repair the damage by transplanting the face of another woman. The miracle he refers to involves the face of his lover, nurse, and assistant Louise. The film is done in a sober, muted style with dark black and whites and the bizarre camera angles, much loved by film noir. I love noir films.
That might be why we like it.
Notice a scene in the cemetery where the doctor has gone to conceal a body in his own family tomb. At the cemetery gate, a shriek of dead branches
against the sky dominates the composition so that humans seem diminished beneath their stark outline. There is surrealism here, and in the oddly shaped cages which contain his experimental dogs. They're not oddly shaped, they're like octagons, but whatever.
They're oddly shaped for dog crates.
They are. And the way his mansion seems at once enormous and so small we can hear the dogs from the garage. The matter-of-fact way he presents the outrage is in the transition of Bunel, who felt that only response to the shocking was to refuse to be shocked by it. So I'm sure he's referencing someone else in his article that I did not read. Franju, who's the director, was a co-founder of the Cinémathèque Française, something like that. Worked during the war to hide his treasures from the Nazis and began making features only in 1949. He worked mostly in the horror genre. He is concerned with mood, not story, and so this film ends not with a conventional resolution, but with an image that could have come from a painting by Dali. The faceless daughter wanders into the woods surrounded by doves. One of the tasks faced by serious filmgoers is to distinguish good films in disreputable genres. It is insufferable to claim you never see horror movies, or westerns, musicals, war movies, teenage romances, or slasher pictures. You're presenting ignorance as taste. The trick is to find the good ones. The French critics did a lot of helpful spadework, resurrecting genres and rehabilitating reputations, but they were not always right. And besides, you have to feel it for yourself. If a film holds my attention, it is one way or another a good one. If it moves or delights me, it may be great. If I am distracted by its conventions, obligatory scenes, and carelessness or lack of ambition, it deserves to be tossed back into the genre. Eyes Without a Face passes my test. It riveted me with its story, or rather, its lack of one. There is no sense of a conclusion on the way, but more of a sense that the professor may remain forever in his operating theater, slicing off faces while his doctor goes mad. Except he's dead. It moved me because the daughter, once she understands what is happening, is more heartbroken over her father's victims than over her own fate. On this foundation, the director constructs an elegant visual work. Here is a horror movie in which the shrieks are not by the characters, but by the images.
I think there's a story, though.
Yeah, there is. But that's a good review.
Yeah.
He's a hell of a writer in his own right, Karen.
He is.
Or was.
It is sort of not a common theme, and I know I've brought it up before, but the brain that wouldn't die, that woman was begging the man not to do the experiments anymore. Just like this girl was begging. What?
Karen, are you comparing the brain that wouldn't die to this film?
No, I'm saying that in The Victim, it's a horror thing where the mad doctor's trying to help someone and they don't want to be helped.
They want to be helped.
Frankenstein is sort of the same in a
True.
more far-fetched way, but that's why I'm coming back. It's the ego of the doctor almost as much as it's the victim in the film.
But science, Karen, science.
Yes, science.
I agree. All right, Karen, what kind of cocktail rating you want to give this film?
I think it's a 2.
I agree.
Well, I thought I was going to have to argue with you.
Nope. I debated it. I went back and forth, but I think it's a 2.
It's definitely better than some of the films we've given 3s to.
Absolutely. Although
we have a wide range of 3s, I'm not going to lie.
You know, we have lots of 2.5s, 2.25s, but we still give them a 3, even though I might have argued there may have been a 2.
I'm glad I've seen it. I feel.
But it seems like I always defer to you, Karen. I don't know why that is.
Because I'm right. What's your issue? I think there's probably, well, maybe not after listening to Roger's, we're on a first name basis, Roger's review, that I was wondering if I missed because you're right, it's artsy. And I was wondering if I missed symbolism, or I bet a bunch of English papers could be
Well,
written
he doesn't
about
call
this.
it artsy. He calls it surrealism and
But he says there's no story. It's more about mood.
noir. Yeah, but
Yeah. So I don't know. But
all right, 2 cocktails. We agree. Are you ready to get into it scene by scene, Karen?
absolutely. Let's go.
All right. Did you watch this on Amazon Prime, Karen?
I did.
There were no warnings other than it's rated 18 plus, even though it says it's non-rated. The Amazon Prime thing is, but whatever. You do you, Amazon. So the film starts rated 18 plus, and then we have silence as we're going through credits.
Yeah, I was messing with my sound.
Me too. I was like,
I was like, there's got to be music or something. Why
is there
aren't my
something
headphones
going on
working?
while we're going through all the producers and whatever? And
They were a lot of credits in the beginning, like they used to do back in the day.
then we have credits in French.
Yes.
And sound eventually does start. I think when the film starts in earnest, sound starts. But there was it's an old film, so it's probably passed through a few hands or whatnot. So there was lots of silence at the beginning when we saw about all who distributed it. Whatever. Credits in French. Although I was interested that the script girl was written as script girl. Some things are not in French at all.
They don't translate, I guess.
Yeah, they don't translate. If you're a script girl, you're a script girl. That's a universal thing, I guess. I don't know. And then I wrote 2 minutes and 40 seconds later, the credits are over because it seemed long.
It seemed longer, but it wasn't that long.
And there were probably like another 20 seconds of silence with the other credits. So it was 3 minutes, I'm sure.
But that's how they used to do it back in the day. All the credits were at the beginning.
I know. I was kind of worried there'd be more at the end because when I looked at the time, I'm like, damn, there ain't much time. They're going to have to wrap this up quick if there's going to be 5 minutes of credits. But there wasn't. So we see who we learn is Louise. I called her Louise because I knew it was Louise. Driving.
And I do say circus music playing. And it's a lot of times when we see her doing something for him, that music plays. When she's in town looking for the girls or when she's doing this. I don't think it was specifically to her, but it might have been.
I think it has something to do with her car, Karen, but we'll get to that. And we see I wrote a disfigured person in the back seat, question mark. But then the next thing I wrote is, I think the person's dead.
Do you know who Paddington the bear is?
Yes, I do.
That's what it looked like to me.
Because they're wearing a
trench coat and a big hat.
Yeah.
You couldn't see the face, but you could tell there was a little blood.
I saw it for a minute.
Oh, I didn't. I saw that it was bloody.
It looked like Eddie in a trench coat and hat.
So you know something's going on right away.
So then
because I said person looks unconscious, and then later dead. Okay.
Yeah, they kind of slump over, whatever. So then she stops, and I wrote, Louise's car has suicide doors, which means it opens forward.
Why did they call it that?
Because you can open and
gotcha.
jump out. Suicide doors.
That's horrible.
You're jumping into traffic. You don't have the door to shield you from traffic.
Gotcha.
Right?
Ugh. Never heard that before. Okay.
So Karen, she is driving a 1958 Citroen 2CV 2ZLP, apparently, Karen.
It looked like a Volkswagen to me.
It's a French car. Citroen.
Okay.
Citroen, I think that's how you say it. It's got umlauts over the E and everything. It's metal.
That's German, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or Swedish, maybe. I don't know.
Any idea what that car went for brand new back in 1958, Karen?
$1,568.
Not bad. $11.95.
Mine's fancy.
So you have the FM radio.
Yes.
Or the radio, period.
Yes.
The AM radio. What do you think one of those would go for now in good condition? That's the only number I could find. Good condition.
That's tough. I don't know. There's probably not a lot of them. I've never seen one. 49,500.
You're way high, Karen.
Oh, 22.
It's a pretty crappy car. I'm just going to say.
Well, see that I don't know anything about.
It was $1,195 brand new.
Yeah, but lots of cars were that.
And look at it, Karen. Would you?
It is. It
want
looks
that?
like a tin can, like it would smash in a
Compared to the
minute.
doctor's car, which one would you rather have?
That's true.
I'm going to give you another chance. Go on.
$12,400.
That's better. You're still, well, you're low now. $16,100 it goes for a new condition, just because it's, a thing, I guess.
It's a novelty, I would guess.
Yeah,
But it does look like a tin can.
it does. It does look a lot like a Volkswagen Gia with suicide doors. But then she gets out, drags the body from the rear of the vehicle to the river she's pulled up next to and dumps it in. Then we cut to what looks like a very nice house, and apparently a professor, as they ask for, but he's really a doctor, receives a phone call. His butler or whoever answers.
Professors in college, if you're a doctor, but you teach classes, they will call you professor too.
But you're a doctor.
You're both. They will say professor.
All right.
That just implies not all doctors teach. So
no duh.
So if you do, you get the title professor.
But butler or whoever it is says, "Oh, he can't speak right now," because we cut to him giving a speech on heterograft surgery, which is skin grafting, basically.
Yeah.
But I think he's speaking specifically about facial surgery. Is he?
I didn't notice that because he was talking about
because I think
transplant of living tissues of organs from one human to another.
Okay.
It hasn't been possible until now with both subjects. Well,
it's pretty common now, right?
Tissues of organs. He's talking about all of them, but he's saying you need to have, there's a couple of methods to do it. One involving X-ray radiation to destroy the antibodies. Because you're going to get, when you transplant organs, you're going to get, I don't want to say graft versus host because that's not the right, rejection.
Rejection, right.
Yeah. So we'll just throw this in here now that we're talking about it.
Go on, Dr. Karen. Talk about it.
No, well, it's not that. I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm going to ask you a couple of questions.
Oh, damn it.
Which organ do you think has the highest rejection rate?
Probably the heart.
You're right. Heart transplants. The rate of organ rejection and patient mortality is the highest, even though the transplants are monitored by regular biopsies. Some 40% of heart recipients experience some type of severe rejection within 1 year of their transplant. You want to know which organ?
I'm not a doctor, Karen, but I would hypothesize that might be due to, if you need a heart transplant, you're probably not freaking well. So your body is probably deteriorating anyway, but go on.
True. Some, I think if you're younger, you have a better shot.
What if you match the blood types and everything? You would think it would work pretty well, but if you need a heart transplant, you're probably in bad shape, period.
It's more than blood types too. Which organ has the least chance of rejection? Yes. Which organ has the least chance of rejection? You're not going to get this.
Kidneys.
It's cornea. But I thought that was kind of cheap. Okay, one more. What organ do you think is the hardest to transplant?
Brain.
Well, those have not been successful.
Well,
yet.
There you go. That must make them harder.
Okay, of ones that have been successful.
And it's not the heart?
No.
But
you're right about the late stages of the donor's life. It's lungs.
I was going to say lungs.
Lungs are most difficult.
Give me a chance.
To transplant because they're highly susceptible to infections in the late stages of the donor's life.
Because they're like
they can sustain damage during the process of recovering from the donor or collapse after surgeons begin to ventilate them after transplant.
And they're kind of complex things, the lungs, I believe. Lots of stuff going on there, I believe. All right, next thing I have is that apparently no human can survive the radiation required or some shit like that. He's giving a speech.
Yeah, and then he ends it. So it's a good mix of people that he's speaking to. It's older people, younger people, women, men.
Yeah, I think they're all just curious.
It almost, though, looked like a donor meeting because a lot of the people who came out were in mink.
Well-to-do, very well-to-do.
Yeah, so I think
it was a social event.
Partly it was for information, but another part was, hey, there's always been donor events at hospitals, and I think that's what it It basically was.
Hello, boys and girls. Thanks for listening to the Scary Spirits podcast. Karen and I really have a great time putting these episodes together. If you enjoy what you hear, please consider taking the time to leave a review wherever you listen. Reviews really help independent podcasts find listeners. The more listeners we have, the easier it is for people to find us. Now, back to the show. So then he finishes his speech and he learns that the morgue had called and they want to see him right away. Then we learn from people in the audience that at his speech that the doctor's daughter has disappeared.
Well, yes.
He has
changed so much. We get
quite a bit of hearsay in this film too.
He has changed so much since his daughter vanished, they said. He says such strange things.
Yes. Then we cut to the morgue.
But wait, don't cut. When he goes through that door in the wall, coolest thing.
I almost made a note of it because that was the coolest. I've seen rooms like that before, but it's like the Oval Office. It's
almost a secret door, but it's not.
Yeah, because there's a doorknob. It's visible, but yeah.
But it matches the wall, so it's not a clear door. I just think those are so cool.
Yeah. So then at the morgue, we see the police talking, and I guess the doctor's daughter went missing and the skin from her face was missing from an accident. They think the doctor's daughter might have committed suicide, although they're not sure why she would strip naked in the middle of winter and put on a trench coat and jump in the river.
Yeah, so we're at the police station basically, and
yeah,
there's two policemen talking about, they think they found his daughter, but they're waiting for him to show up. Yes. Yeah. But they say, this is where they were talking about the rats, the facial burns, you can't recognize her. There were facial burns, the long immersion in the water of the river, and the rats. They say, don't forget the rats. So you get some inkling of what happened. He obviously, when they crashed, the car ended up in the river, and she was in there for a while, I guess. But they say at this point, there is a large open wound around the face, but it's strange because the edges are smooth, as if somebody cut it with a scalpel. But then the professor arrives and they look out the window and see him.
Police tell the doctor they have found a body in the river matching his daughter's description. They show the doctor the body and he says it is Christian. Is that what you say?
Yes.
And then a man comes in and tells him, hey, the other dude's here.
Yeah,
you think this might be his daughter, but the police tell him, nope,
woman is missing.
Been positively identified. Send him on his way. So then the doctor leaves and he runs into the man outside who was brought there because he's also missing a daughter. And he says his daughter's been missing for a week, and he asks if the professor or doctor or whatever is sure that the body was his daughter. And he says yes, and they have a little thing there.
Well, he's a little cold because he knows.
He does. Well, we don't know he knows at this point.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Whatever. Okay.
Not for sure we don't.
He says, I shouldn't be the one to comfort you. You have hope at least. And
Correct.
Gets in his car.
Yes. So we don't know that we don't know yet. We have if you're smart, you have suspicions, I guess, but you don't know.
Well, I guess we know from the summary of the movie, we know.
Yeah. So then we see Louise.
Circus music plays again, and we see
Louise in her 1958 Citroen 2CV AZLP, which I think looks like a clown car, which is why circus music plays.
Maybe.
I don't know. But we see her following a woman.
A couple of women.
She's not in her car, though, really, because she's walking into town at this point, right?
Well, she sees some university students, and there's two together.
Some women. I don't know that they're university students. They're two girls.
They say they talk about that they're university students.
And then she's being sly, and she learns from passersby that one of the girls is looking for a room to rent.
Yeah, one leaves with a
guy,
male friend, and leaves the other one alone. And I thought she was going to do something then, but she doesn't. She's just getting info.
So then we cut to the cemetery. We see Christians. Is that how you say it again? Christines. I don't know.
fiance, and we learn that Louise is the doctor's secretary. That's basically all the funeral's for, as we get background on
Yeah, there's a long receiving
the
line, and
family.
that's who then there's a couple women chatting about who's who.
Then everyone leaves, and the doctor wants to take flowers into the crypt, but Louise wants to leave, and doctor slaps her. He likes everything neat and tidy. So he takes the flowers into the crypt or whatever. So then we see the doctor and Louise arriving at his palatial estate.
Wait, when they leave, so they're leaving the cemetery, she's in heels. You probably didn't notice it, but it was kind of funny. Her heels were sinking into the gravel completely. Her entire 2 or 3 inch heel, every time she took a step, went all the way down into the gravel. She handled it very well, but it was kind
as you
of funny.
do if you're walking heels all the fucking time, I would assume.
It was funny.
So they arrive at the estate, and I wrote, apparently she lives with him because her car is in the garage.
Yes, and also the clinic is right next door, because they drive by and you see some.
I didn't get that
patients
until the end.
There's some patients, because at first I thought, I said they're going home. No, they're going to the hospital. No, they're going home. The clinic is right next door.
I kind of saw something like that, but I didn't realize it until the end. And we hear barking dogs, which we hear throughout the film, Karen.
Yes. Well, he drops her at the front door and turns around, and then he goes over to his garage and he has to open his own garage doors. So
yeah, as you do.
Well, I remember doing that as a kid. We used to open the garage doors and we would hang on inside, and then the older kids would push it up and we'd swing on the garage door. That was our fun back in the day. No. But
thanks, Karen. I'm an only child, so I never got to experience that.
You didn't have neighbor kids do that?
No.
When do you think the first electric automated garage door opener was invented? By Mr. C.G. Johnson.
We got one pretty early, but I'll bet it was invented a long time before that. Because I've seen them in use at palatial estates for the gates. It's basically a garage door opener opening the fucking gate to their estate. Damn. I'm going to say 1958.
I wouldn't have guessed this. 1926.
Damn.
The same guy who invented the automated garage door opener also brought us the first overhead garage doors in 1921. So in these garage doors that he's going into, they're opening like
sideways.
Barn doors.
Yeah.
Kind of, but sideways instead of going up into. I just thought it was funny. What a pain in the ass that used to be, to have to get out of your car and go open them, because we did not get them. We didn't have a garage for a long time.
First world problems.
Yep. Pouring rain, trying to open the garage. Locked.
Whoa, is me. Open the garage door manually.
Oh, you just said you had yours early.
Pretty early, I felt like.
The genie. Did you have a genie?
We did have a genie. I mean, I remember not everyone having one when we got one.
But yeah, you do hear a lot of dogs. A lot of dogs.
So then we see the doctor walking through his estate, up the stairs, going to his daughter's bedroom, and we find that she is indeed alive, Karen. And she has found her obituary. And we learn that the girl who died was killed by the doctor while he was trying to perform a face transplant. It's
a fancy house. Everything is very beautiful. The windows French. Are stained glass. It's
like a French palace.
Yeah.
The doctor sees that Christine is not wearing her mask, because we don't see her face the whole time. And
no, she's turned away.
He tells her she must wear it, and he promises her that he will succeed in fixing her face. And this is when he kind of gets all, what, you doubt me? Don't you know who I am?
Exactly.
Learn that all the mirrors have been removed. Christine says she can still see her reflection in the glass, and there are lots of reflective surfaces and knives or whatever, and she sees her face and it scares her, but the mask scares her more.
She knows what she looks like.
And Christine blames her father for the accident that caused her disfigurement.
He drove like a lunatic.
Then Louise puts the mask back on Christine, and she brushes her hair.
Christiane says, I wish I were blind or dead. But yes, Louise puts on the mask and starts to comb her hair and fixes her hair.
And right here I wrote, she looks like Mia Farrow.
It's the big eyes. She has really pretty eyes.
I started looking into this film and looking at the poster and everything. I was like, well, that's Mia Farrow. Well, that's Mia Farrow because all the pictures are of her in the mask. And even without her mask, when we see her later, she looks like when her face is done, she looks like Mia Farrow. She's a cute
Pretty
girl.
though.
Yeah, pretty girl. So then Christian, is that how you say it?
Close enough, yes.
Goes downstairs and picks up a phone. And I mean, it takes a long time because, she's walking down the stairs.
Well, the father says he doesn't like when she's snooping.
She goes into the room and the mirror's gone. She touches it and hits us over the head that, yeah, the mirror's gone. And she picks up a phone and calls her fiance, but doesn't say anything when he answers because, of course, there was no caller ID back in 1960, Karen.
Yeah, you were safer.
And then we do see a painting of her for a moment here, too. So we know what she's supposed to look like. And she's like holding a dove in the painting, too, right, Karen?
Yeah, I didn't know if it was her or her mother, but I think it was her.
I think that's foreshadowing.
Oh, gotcha.
So then we see Louise, I guess next day, back and walking through the town.
I think it's Paris. So I don't think it's town.
The town.
The old town, a little town of Paris.
It is. It's an old town. And she finds the girl she was following before standing in line for a movie, ? I didn't know if it was a play or a movie, but it was something like that. I think it's a play
or something because she sounds like there's different prices for the seats.
And Louise tells her that, oh, I have an extra ticket. I noticed that you're alone, even though there's a dude standing right behind her. I don't know how she doesn't know that dude's with her, but whatever. I have an extra ticket and my friend has not shown up. And she offers it to her and they walk in. They bypass all the people waiting in line and walk right in, Karen.
Well, they have tickets. They were waiting in line to buy tickets.
Yeah. Next, we see Louise and the girl, who we learn is Edna, meeting for lunch.
So I think they've become friendly.
Louise says she has found a room for her, and she offers to drive the girl to the room. She is friends with the owner. So they get in the car into the 1958 Citroen 2CV AZLP.
I called it the body dumping car.
They get in and they drive, and I wrote, it seems far away.
That's what I wrote too. And then
they drive and drive. And
Edna says, this seems far away.
Seems far away. Yeah. I got to go to school every day in Paris. So how am I going to do that? But Louise says she took the long way to avoid traffic, as I do, Karen. I hate people in traffic.
She says Paris is less than 20 minutes away on the train.
Yeah, they stop for a train passing, and she tells her, you can take this train to Paris, be 20 minutes. So then they arrive at the doctor's palatial estate, and again, the dogs are barking. Damn dogs was barking.
I couldn't figure out what are the dogs there for? I mean, I sort of thought maybe I knew what he was doing, but it's not obvious until much later.
I thought they were for protection at this point.
Yeah, to keep people out.
And right here I wrote there's a nice shot of them entering the house.
Yes, all the lights come on when they step on the stairs.
And they open the large doors and enter, and we see the doctor in the house in the background, and they enter. And they're silhouetted. It's a good shot. And they meet the doctor, and he offers them some port, Karen, some port.
Yes, it's not brandy, it's port. But she gets a bad vibe right away, I think.
Oh, yeah. She's already got a bad vibe driving out there this whole way. She refuses. She says she doesn't want to stay long. And she says she doesn't want to stay because she is supposed to meet a friend that evening in Paris, but they're all telling her, oh, you need to see the room, at least. So then the doctor chloroforms her, as you do.
I will say this part was long, where you're talking about walking through the mansion, where they're carrying her through multiple rooms and opening doors and more doors and more
Every time
rooms.
they're in the mansion, it's long because they're going up and down stairs.
But I think they want you to see how big it is or something. But
I guess.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
They carry the girl away, and Christiane comes down and sees them. She begins to follow them into the garage and the cellar, I wrote.
Through the secret door.
And the doctor tells Louise he will begin after dinner. But then Christiane, she was hiding behind the Centrone 2CV-AZLP.
Well, you think that it seems like she doesn't seem to know what's going on. But she has to.
She has to.
But we get the feeling at this point that she doesn't, because she's spying on them to see what they're doing.
And we haven't talked about the doctor's car yet. It's a 1957, a year older, Centrone DS19, Karen.
I didn't even notice it.
It's much fancier than the 1958 Centrone 2CV AZLP. You didn't notice the doctor's car when he was going to the morgue and all that?
I guess I just didn't pay attention.
It's very sporty. Any idea what it went for brand new?
36.
Looks like a Porsche or something, but 2833, Karen.
Mine's fancy.
Yeah. What do you think it goes for now in good condition?
28.5.
That's you're learning. 29.2, Karen.
Oh, that one I should get.
200.
I should get that one.
Yeah, you should just start multiplying by 10, Karen. Is what you should do, because that's what it seems to be. But whatever. So then Christiane goes into the room and finds a laboratory. The girl is laying there on the table. Edna, I guess. And then Christine looks at the girl and goes to see the dogs. And they all seem to like her, Karen.
There was some good acting in there by those dogs. Puts his head on her shoulder. And
yeah. Did you make any notes about the different breeds of dogs that were in there?
The one that she goes up to is a Great Dane. They almost look like a dog de Bordeaux, which is probably French. So that's probably there. The rest I didn't. Kind of look like a Portuguese water dog, untrimmed, but it's hard to say.
You're much more fancy than me, Karen. I wrote German Shepherds, Great Dane.
There are German Shepherd.
And a Mastiff. I thought.
Oh, it might have been a Mastiff, but it
was a Mastiff.
It was big. I thought it was a dog de Bordeaux, but.
I know what the hell that is, Karen. So you go ahead on. So then Christiane, or whatever you call her, goes back to the laboratory and removes her mask, and she's looking in the mirror. We don't see her face, though. But then she goes over to the Edna, the girl, strapped down to the table there, and touches her face. And Edna comes to and screams. And then this is where we see Christiane's face for the first time, or Christiana, whatever you call it.
It's a little blurry because the girl is coming out of her chloroform stupor.
It is. So then the doctor begins the surgery. First, of course, he must draw or mark on the face where he's going to cut, because he has to stay inside the line.
Yeah, I didn't really get that,
but he does.
Before we go any further,
I guess there's no, worrying him cutting the wrong part, because there's only one face. So right. You don't have to put an X.
You don't
on
have to mark
face.
Whether it's left or right.
Right.
When do you think the first partial face transplant on a living human was carried out? Interestingly enough, it was in France.
Yeah, I feel like I saw some of this when I was kind of researching, but it looked it was a color photo, the picture I remember seeing, and don't know if it was the first or not. So I'm going to say 1974.
So this goes to show you how difficult this actually is. The first partial face transplant on a living human was carried out in France in 2005. The world's first full face transplant was completed in Spain in 2010. The first U.S.
It's just skin, though. It's just skin grafting for the most part, right?
I think there's a lot of, it's a big piece, I think, to do all at once. I think that's part of the issue.
There's lots of muscles and shit in there, but I don't know if that matters.
Who's the first? Well, not who. It was March 2011.
It depends. I mean, are you doing the eyelids and everything? Or are you doing like he is and just cutting around the eyes? So, you know what I mean? Because it looks like her eyelids were intact.
Yes.
No,
but I don't.
And around her mouth, too. But, it's a movie.
She had lips, it seemed like.
Yeah.
So in 2011, plastic surgery transplant team. This was the first one in the U.S., led by Bourbon Tomahawk, MD. It was, her name was Dallas. It took more than 30 physicians, nurses, anesthesiologists, and residents working for more than 15 hours to complete the procedure. One more. How many face transplants do you think have been performed worldwide?
Probably not a lot, Karen. 5?
About 40. As of 2018, there are 40.
Okay.
But let's get into this surgery it's pretty gross to watch what he's doing. It's not bad, but if you think about it, it's kind of
In
gross.
1960, it was probably worse. But doctor begins the surgery. He marks her face. Then he takes a scalpel and cuts her face.
Around the perimeter of her face.
Yep. And I wrote, it's a pretty good blood effect. I'm sure I know how they did it, but it's pretty good. Although at first it didn't run enough for me. But once he got down to, because I think he was doing the sides and the top, but then once he got to the bottom, it naturally ran more. So
yes,
that looked pretty good. But then the nurse ruined it by
blotting it.
And that made it look, well, okay, well, that looks like shit now. Thank you, nurse or Louise. Because then you could tell it was fake. When she did that, the effect's gone. But whatever. And then he begins removing the skin from the face. And I wrote, it's a pretty good effect as he's cutting.
Yeah, they're working it off. It doesn't just peel off like an orange peel or something. They're working to get it to come off.
He's cutting it.
He's cutting it. They're putting more and more clamps on it to pull it up off the muscles.
Right. And it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I said this must
the skin they're pulling up. It looks pretty good, but
it's latexy. But
for 60, it's
yeah,
very good, I would say.
I said, considering when this was made, it's pretty gross because it's kind of gross now. So I would imagine back then it was really gross.
And they remove the skin from the girl's face.
And her remaining face is bloody.
Yeah, we see it for just like a split second.
Yeah.
Again, looks like Eddie. A dark Eddie. And apparently the next day, I wrote, I don't know what this is all about, but a man brings a German Shepherd to the doctor and he puts it in a cage.
I think it's a stray because he said everybody loves a puppy, but when they grow up, they don't want them anymore and they get abandoned in the woods. And that must be how he gets most of his dog. I think it's a dog catcher.
Yeah, but the German Shepherd seems to know exactly where he's supposed to go because he's dragging the doctor to it, but whatever. I thought it might have been one who escaped and
no, it's a dog catcher
because he knew exactly where to go.
He
was leading the doctor to his cage.
The old timey the dog catcher with the net and the thing to put around there,
So then Louise comes down, and the doctor asks if Christiane or whatever her name is eating well. She says she is, and Louise seems very positive.
Are they at breakfast?
Not yet. They're down by the dogs. But this is where we learn that Louise has had the surgery performed on her as well, which is why she always wears that thing around her.
The pearl necklace, the choker.
Collar. Yeah, the choker. And right here I wrote, is she the dead wife? ? And then Louise asks if the doctor has decided what to do with Edna. He tells her, well, keep feeding her and I'll decide later.
Yeah, that was pretty cold.
Then we see Edna. Apparently she's recovering and she's heavily bandaged. Louise brings
food that looks like it's in dog bowls.
Edna hits Louise over the head and runs out of the room. She tries to exit through the garage, but the doctor pulls up. She can see the headlights. So then she runs up the stairs, and we have more video of people going through the stairs upstairs. Doctor follows her, and she jumps out of the window and falls to her death. She gone.
Which I thought that was a cool shot, her down there on the pavement. They lingered on it, and it was artistically done, I thought.
Yeah, she is well positioned. Then we see Doctor and Louise, and they bring the body to the family crypt, and he buries her.
Yeah, and Louise is helping this whole time, doing everything.
But a plane flies overhead. I'm not sure what that was all about, but
Yeah, I don't know.
they made a big deal out of it. Then we see the girl who we saw earlier with Edna reporting her disappearance to the police. And she gives a description of Louise. Apparently, she noticed that they were being followed.
No,
And
I think, oh, maybe. But the police are
she
starting to
mentions
notice.
the pearl choker. Yeah. And police are beginning to notice that there were a lot of disappearances of female students with blue eyes.
I think Edna had befriended Louise and was talking to a friend about it and said she always wears
Probably
a choker of pearls, like she's a high class lady or something. So I think they were talking about her.
And they just so happened, the police, to have a blue-eyed female student in the office right now that was brought in because she was shoplifting, Karen.
Yes.
Did you ever get accused of shoplifting?
I've never shoplifted. I'm not going to ask you.
You're so good. And they decide to get her address and give her a warning.
To be fair, I'd be terrible at it. I'd be so paranoid. I could not be cool if I did that. You know, even before there were cameras everywhere, I had no way. I couldn't pull it off. But yeah, so the higher ranked policeman says to his partner or whatever, just give her a stern lecture, get her address. It might come in handy, and send her home. Because she swears it was the first time she ever shoplifted.
Well, she's a starving student. Then Doctor and Christian, I don't know if I'm saying it right, having dinner with Louise. And Louise tells Christian that she looks angelic. And she does look good. She looks like Mia Farrow.
Her skin is flawless.
It is. And Doctor tells Christine that Christian, maybe she should take a long trip. She should disappear for a while. He will have new papers made. Papers. Where's your papers?
Think of it. You can get a new name, a new face, start over somewhere.
Then Christian begins talking about her fiance, and Doctor assures her that he will be pleased.
Yeah, Karen. He won't mind that you have a different face and that we took it off another woman. He'll understand. He loves you.
Then the doctor gets a call on the phone and another emergency. He must leave. But as he is leaving, he notices some issues with Christian's face.
He asks her if she's wearing makeup, and she says no.
But she obviously is, Karen. To me, at least lip gloss. Jesus Christ, her lips are glossy. But whatever.
But he notices something's wrong.
It's pretty plain. But she is wearing lip gloss, whatever. So then Louise and the doctor go outside, and Louise questions the doctor about his concern for Christian's face, and he reveals that he has failed as he's smoking a fag.
They smoke a lot in this movie. He does, for sure.
Are they all hand-rolled? I should have made a note.
I didn't notice, but I do remember. I know we've mentioned it before. My pediatrician, my doctor smoked.
Yeah. Karen, next we have a montage of dated photographs of Christiana, or whatever you call her.
It's like a laboratory report. He's taking pictures every so many days and explaining what's happening.
And apparently she is experiencing necrosis.
Yes,
it's rejecting. I think you mentioned in a previous episode, Karen.
Yes, I think I did. But it's not taking.
No. Then we cut to Louise bringing Christine a mask.
Yep, it's back to the mask. Because he says, I have to remove the necrotic tissue. So he takes off her face.
Then we cut to the doctor practicing on a dog, ?
Yes, it finally goes, okay, this is what the dogs are there for. And it looks like he's taken fur from one and put it on another. And when you look, there is one dog that has like a bandage around his head, almost like a cartoon.
Yeah, I noticed that in the beginning.
So he's experimenting on the dogs and being upset that he can do this on the dogs without any problem, but he can't seem to do it on his daughter.
Then Christian calls her fiance again. This time she says his name, Jacques. Jacques. But then she is interrupted by Louise and she hangs up. Christian tells Louise she wants to die. She asks if she can have the injections that her father gives the dogs if something goes wrong, and then she collapses. Next, we cut to the fiance at the police.
Saying, I know I heard her voice.
And then the police mention the description of several girls that have gone missing, and
Well, he
he
says,
mentions a girl with a pearl choker.
what he says is, he says, I can't deal with, that's conjecture on your part that it was her. I can only deal with facts. And he says, I have a whole file here full of facts. And he starts rattling things off. And he says, a woman who wears a choker all the time. So he's not saying it in order to connect anything. He's just telling him, look, I have a whole big folder full of conjecture, but I can only deal in facts. But then Jacques starts to maybe put the pieces together a little bit.
Yeah, he remembers that Louise always wears a pearl choker. So then the police decide to bring the shoplifting girl back in, Paulette.
Yes. The higher ups want to prosecute you.
Yeah, they want to put you in a trial, but hey, there's a way we could avoid this.
Yeah, we can help you.
We could help you. If you want to do us a favor, we could avoid all that trial nonsense. So they convince her to basically go undercover for them.
Yes, because she has the right look.
But for some reason, they want her to go a little blonde. I didn't get that, but.
Well, that would make her look like the others who have disappeared.
Okay.
Which
she didn't look like the others, but whatever. She looked better. She looked the best of them all. But anyway, so then we see the girl. I mean, they give her instructions. You go here. You see this doctor. You tell
gives you a slip. You'll end up at the clinic.
You go to this doctor, whatever. So they tell her exactly what to do. But next we see her in the hospital being seen by the doctor, and she complains of migraines. The doctor being Christian's father. And then we see him making his rounds. And he says
he orders 2 tests for her migraines.
Yeah. A brain scan, I guess, is one. He gave a fancy
name. It is.
But
yes, I'll do electroencephalogram. It's not right. It's a brain scan. I actually had one of those done. They stick all the points on your brain, and then they flash lights and make you open it, But he also orders.
No, I don't, Karen, but go on.
Well, I've done it because I tend to pass out indiscriminately sometimes, and they were trying to figure out if it was my brain. And he told me I had an unremarkable brain when I had a brain scan. I said, well, don't let that slip out.
I would say good day and leave.
And he also...
Don't you know who I am?
I was only a graduate student at that time, but I was mortified that my brain was unremarkable. But he did think, when he showed it to me, I said, it looks like cheese doodles. He orders a fundoscopy, an exam that uses a magnifying lens and a light to check the fundus of the eye, back of the inside of the eye, including the retina and the optic nerve, which is 2 things you would check if somebody was complaining about massive headaches. Can be your vision.
Next, we see the doctor making his rounds, and he sees a young boy, and basically this whole scene is to show that he has compassion for his patients. Whatever. He's compassionate.
The kid's a cutie. He was a cute little kid.
Sure. Not sure what was wrong with him, but apparently everyone knows what me. Then we cut back to Paulette, the shoplifter, and they're doing her brain scan. Doctor enters, and he observes.
He's like, there's nothing wrong with this girl.
The doctor tells the fiance that nothing seems to be wrong with the Paulette girl.
So the fiance is there. I don't know if we mentioned it. He's also a doctor, but like a doctor in training with the father.
Yeah, he's like the doctor's
like a resident, maybe.
Yep.
But he's been around, but he's doing the rounds with the doctor. And
so then the nurse brings in Paulette's chart as the doctor requested when she was finished, and tells her to release Paulette that evening, and it will free up a bed that they could use, maybe. So then Paulette, we see her leaving the hospital, and she stops at the nurse's desk and asks to make a phone call. She calls her mom and tells her she is on her way home. And then the nurse directs her to the bus to take her back to Paris. Just walk down the road a little ways there.
15 minutes in your
15 minutes.
Carrying your suitcase.
On deserted road.
You'd think that they would have escorted her, but whatever.
They would today. They would have had her coming out in a wheelchair.
Yep.
But anyway, then there's hokey music as Louise pulls up to her. She's walking down the road in her heels. Louise offers to give her a ride.
Hey, sailor, need a ride? Going your way. But she's non-threatening. She's a woman, so she got in with her.
So then we see the fiance, Christian's fiance, calling the police to let them know that Paulette has been released. Police inspector says they will be sure she gets home safe. Really? So then we see Doctor drawing on Paulette's face. She's already knocked out. She's in
she's not
in the
home
lab.
safe.
She's whatever. So then Louise comes down and tells the doctor that there are 2 men to see him. He says he doesn't have time, but she whispers something in his ear. I think he says, "It's the fuzz."
Yeah, they're at the clinic.
So then he leaves.
Walks across the lawn to the clinic.
But we do pan to Christian, who is sitting down there in the lab on a love seat, fully aware of everything that was going on. So then the police begin questioning the doctor about Paulette. She never arrived home. Doctor turns to ask the nurse. And this is when I realized, oh, the fucking hospital is right there on his grounds. Okay.
Yeah, it's like the receptionist kind of.
Yeah.
She's taking care of all the office stuff. Did Paulette leave? When was she released? She finds
says,
it.
yes, she was released, and she remembers telling her how to go to the bus to go back to Paris. And the doctor says, well, there you go, boys. Once they leave here, not my problem.
Not my issue.
So then fiance arrives, and my notes actually say Beyonce arrives.
Wow.
Which I thought
that
was
would have
funny.
been exciting.
And the doctor asks him to show the policemen out.
Yeah, it almost looks like he's a little suspicious.
It does, because the doctor's watching out the door as he walks them out, and Beyonce apologizes for sending the police on a wild goose chase, is what it says here. Beyonce, of course, boys and girls. So then we cut back to Paulette. She wakes up, begins crying. Christian watches. Christian grabs the scalpel, and of course, Paulette screams, "No, no, no!" But Christian cuts her strap, holding her down. And then Louise enters and tries to stop her, and Christian stabs her right in the neck with the scalpel. No blood, but she gone, I wrote.
Yeah.
Then Paulette runs away. Next, Christian goes and releases the hounds from their cages. Release the hounds.
Yep, lets them all go free.
They run away. Doctor arrives and hears the dogs. He opens the cellar door and is attacked by a single German Shepherd.
Yeah, but
next we see the other dogs running out, and they attack him as well. And I wrote, he is obviously wearing padding. Next, Christian opens the cage full of doves and lets them escape.
It's not what happened in mine. She did it before that we see, because there were feathers flying all around her as the dogs were running out.
And right here I wrote, it's reminiscent of the painting we saw of her earlier.
It is.
So then Christine walks out of the cellar with a dove perched on her wrist, walks past her father's body with his somewhat bloody face. He gone. She continues walking into the woods.
Yeah, it's very
Finn.
Yeah, I did like that. Finn.
Wasn't even Finney, it was Finn.
It's an ambiguous ending. She just walks away into the woods.
Yeah, as you do.
With the dove.
A white dove. All right. What'd you think of the drink, Karen? Anything?
It's good.
Any comments?
It's okay. It's a little medicinal. I don't know if it's the pomegranate. I'm not a big fan of pomegranate juice. I'd rather have cranberry. Has a similar taste, but I don't know why I like it more.
I'll probably agree. I did get the lemon immediately too when I drank it.
I don't mind that, but
yeah, it's good. Mine is evaporated.
Pomegranate juice is supposed to be really good for you, and I've had
mine evaporated about an hour ago.
It doesn't taste as good to me as cranberry juice. I think I would change it.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't hate it. I might have one when we're finished here, Karen.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I think I have cranberry juice. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Anything we learned today, Karen?
Well, we learned about garage door openers, which I'm sure everyone was just absolutely riveted by.
Fascinating.
Which organs are hardest to transplant, which are let's see. which organs have the highest rejection rate, which organs have the least chance of rejections, which are the hardest to transplant, when the first partial facial transplant was, when the first complete one was, when the first one in the United States was, the medical tests that I'm not going to try to
Brain scan.
pronounce when I've been drinking. That might be it. Is that it?
I got several Eddie references in there.
And you had
Other
some
than that.
Cars.
Oh, and cars. Yeah. Cintrones. A couple Cintrone vehicles. Okay. Lots of good learning. Are we ready to move on to next week's film, Karen?
Yeah, I would just say I recommend this one.
I would too.
Definitely see it. I think it will impress people at parties.
If you're a fan of the genre, I will say.
Little sophistication.
Yeah. A little sophistication. So on to next week's film, Karen. Are you ready?
It's your choice.
Oh, is it? The film I've chosen, Karen, is Piranha from 1978.
No. See, we classed it up and now we're going to do Piranha.
Yeah, 1978. Piranha.
Yeah, well, I've not seen it, but piranha were kind of a thing. I would never stick my feet in a river in Africa.
Me either.
I mean, I'm not quite as traumatized as by the great white shark and Jaws and things, but I still have some trauma from piranha.
Have you seen it before?
No, but people would have piranha tanks. Like, I've seen enough in films that things are gone in like a millisecond. Do you have a drink to go with it?
Oh, I do, Karen.
Can't wait. What is it?
It's called Guy Fieri's Piranha Bite.
Okay. What do we need for that?
All the good stuff, Karen. Coconut rum, blue curacao, vodka, pineapple juice, sweet and sour mix, lemon lime soda, and lemon and lime slices for garnish.
Wow. It's a lot of things.
Sounds like a lanai drink.
Definitely. That one's going to need an umbrella.
And the recipe I found is for 4 servings, so I'll probably cut it in half. Make mine a double.
Way to parcel it out there.
Yeah, 3 ounces of coconut rum, 3 ounces of blue curacao, 3 ounces of vodka. So it's basically 1, whatever. A splash of pineapple juice, half a cup, Karen, of sweet and sour mix.
Wow.
And then a big splash of lemon lime soda and lemons and limes for garnish. So I'll figure it out. I'll cut it in half. Make mine a double. All right. Anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
Well, Greg, as always, I want to thank our listener. I know there's a lot of podcasts out there. Thank you so much for spending time with us. What about you, Greg? Who do you need to thank?
Well, Karen, I need to thank the great people of Pensacola, where I've been for the last 2 weeks.
For taking care of your every whim.
Yeah. For, being there for me whenever I needed them.
Greg would like to thank the sun for bronzing him up.
But don't go there, people, because it sucks. It's terrible. It's the worst place you could go for vacation. Do not go to Pensacola. It's terrible. And the band Verse 13 for providing all the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
Unlike the music in this film, Verse 13 music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Hey, it's Karen, and I'm here to talk to you about getting social with us. Did you know you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast? Or check out our website, scaryspirits.com. If you have something to say, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening. Please drink responsibly.